Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today we're going to talk about survival hacks that you can do with your boot or your shoe. And it will not only be about survival all hacks, but also about some things that could be handy in everyday life. But before we do that, if you're interested in detective stories, this is the first part of an 11-part series that I wrote. It's called Bloody Crosses, it's in Dutch, and if you're interested in that kind of stories, look it down in the description. Alright, so uh, survival hacks with shoes or boots. Well, there are many simple things that you probably already have heard, but I've come across several hacks that I never heard of and actually thought these were actually kind of good. So I'm going to start with, because it's going to be a little bit of a long list. All right, one of the first things that you probably obviously will have heard of is change your shoelaces with paracord. That way, you have for every cord that you have, there are five little smaller cords inside of it, so you have more rope. So in a survival situation, for example, if you need to build a shelter or something or a trap, you can take your shoelaces, open them, take the paracord out of it, and then with the paracord that you have left, you can tie your shoes again. Perhaps not that comfortably, but it will be very useful. So that's something simple that you can do. Change your shoelaces with paracord. Another thing that I've learned is that is something that I always used to wear on the boots of my work boots on my job, and that is one of these patches with a zipper on it. Why would this be handy? Well, in a survival situation, if you're going to sleep in a or just take a nap or take a shelter and let your rest feet or your socks dry, that's that's a moment that you're actually a little bit vulnerable. So because if you're discovered or somebody is pursuing you or try to get you away, then or try to rob you, then you need to get out in a just as fast as possible. Something that you can. I always advise a tactic that you only take out of your bug-out bag, for example, what you need, and the rest you let in, and that way you have only one thing to put in. Close it, and you can get away. But what if your shoes are off? Well, in that case, what you do is you take one of these lamps, you you do not have to modify it. You just have to wire the shoelaces inside of it, and that way to a certain point that it will be have enough closure to get around your feet. But yeah, the thing is, if you put this on your shoes, you just have to zip it open. So that way you do not have to start to knotting your shoelaces together, and that way it's just zip open, shoe in, foot in, and just close it off, and you're gone. To be honest, you have to look. Have to make sure that it's done on a very good way. Sometimes it could be a little bit annoying, so you have to use zip ties for this. But as long as you put it on well, this can save you almost a minute with every shoes instead of starting to uh, tie the knots with your hands. So that could save a lot of time, which can be essential in a survival situation. All right. Another thing is if you especially this is especially handy in everyday life during winter in urban environments. You know, we all know if we step outside and it has rained and it's freezing, it's very slippery. So yeah, that could be very dangerous, not only during a survival situation but also in everyday life. So what can we do to make our shoes a little bit more ice proof? Well, there is a certain way. You There are other ways actually. You can just buy one of those ice spikes that you can put beneath your shoe. But yeah, you do. It's not always handy to have those in your pocket, or you can put them all every time. What is something else that you can do? It is a little trick, and that is you just take some. How would they say this? Hairspray. Yeah, how is I don't know. I do not really know the English name for it, but it's the hairspray to keep your hair in a certain shape. And what you do is you just spray it beneath the sole of your shoe, and and while it's still sticky, what you do is you take some sand and you rub it a little bit over it, and that way you have the sand stuck to the bottom of your shoe, and that way you have a certain friction that will keep on the ice instead of the rubber sole beneath it. So yeah, that's something that's really works. For all people who are thinking about the same idea that I had, it will not work if you use salt. Salt is perhaps because my idea was if I would use salt instead of sand, it would melt the ice and that way I have better grip. No, after 10 steps, the salt will be melted together with the moist, and that way it will be gone after 10 steps. So use sand is my advice for this. So yes, just hairspray, sand, and another thing, just make sure that you do not have to go somewhere inside where you might get the floor dirty, because sometimes the sand will stick and you will leave it all behind. But yeah, if you do not mind to get a angry look from the cleaning lady in a public building, this is actually a good hack. So also especially during a bug out scenario where the ground is slippery or icy, and that way you can get away without the risk of falling, especially with a heavy bug out bag. So that's another thing you can do. Right. Another thing that you can do is, yeah, this is not really for survival, and now this is the only thing I'm talking about where it's how you buy the shoe and not about a modification, and that is if you are scared for if you're in a war zone and there are landmines, there are certain military shoes that or working shoes that have a metal plate beneath it for just for in such cases. So if there are booby traps or landmines, this could provide a little bit more protection again if you step on one, because most landmines are built or made to maim. So it's not really like in the movies that the whole leg is blown off, unless it's one of those deadly specific designed landmines. But most landmines are designed to maim. So a metal plate that is worked in it. You have those in military shoes, work shoes. An iron tip, like in the work shoes, could be handy during social unrest or war, or during a bug out where you might encounter some robbers. That way, if you kick someone, you will give them a serious, more hard kick with a steel tip than with just a regular shoe. That could be handy during a confrontation for self-defense, but the downside is it could be more heavier to walk with. So that's something that you will need to calculate a little bit in your survival plans. All right. Next thing. Um, it is a little trick from Vietnam. There was during Vietnam there was because of the booby traps and of the because mostly the upper part of the body was hit by shrapnel, by bullets, by yeah explosions. So what did soldiers do? They took their dog tags and they bound them uh, on their actually on their boots. Why? Because usually the boots, the everything beneath the body was usually less damaged or physically harmed, and that way they could identify a wounded person if they were shot or had shrapnel or lost their dog tags above. So some extra dog tags could help for identifications. I talked about the importance of dog tags for survival situations. I talked about why that if you're just in everyday, even in everyday life, if you're hurt or wounded and you got to go to the hospital, that way the doctors will know what is your blood type in case you need a blood transfusion. They know your name, so they can look your history and they will know what medication you are on. They cannot give you what are you allergic for. That could be life saving if you're unconscious or not able to talk during if you're wounded, and that way they can also inform your family and get everything quicker done. So yeah, dog tags on your or a form of identifications plate on your shoes could be actually a little bit handy during certain survival situations. Another thing you can do if you have some isolation tape, we all know if you're going to cut your laces or you have this top of the lace that is prone to break or fall off, what you can do is try to rub some to put some tape around it, and that way the lace is not only closed and you have a better grip. The thing is, you also have some extra duct tape during your bug out or evacuation. So it's just something very small, but a little bit of tape could patch up a hole or put something together. Tape is always a good survival thing. Right. So another thing I would put around my shoe, that is a bobby pin. So one of those hair clips that I shown in my video on how to escape restraints. If you are a victim of being kidnapped, and they some kidnappers or terrorists will take your shoes away because you will not be able to run away. But if they let you keep your shoes and you are in the restraint, if you can put one of these somewhere around the shoe, between the laces, somewhere like here between, you put them in this thing that they cannot see it. That way you have always a bobby pin, and if they use handcuffs, you can or you have a lock, and you are a little bit skilled with pick locking. That way you can try to get it out and try to open the lock. So it's very small, very light, and also could be during a how do you say this, during a bug out, can be used as an improvised fishing hook. So a little bobby pin could be very helpful and does not take a lot of space and weight, and is almost invisible. Um, yeah. So those were the things that we. Oh, there's one more thing on the outside that you can do, and yeah, as you can see, did this just put between the laces. It's a small compass, but it's also something you can put on with some glue or some other patching work. You can what it might sound stupid in first instance, but if you think about it, that could be save a lot of time during a bug out. You know, if you're on a bug out and you need to navigate, and you know I have to go north or I have to go so west or east west, it's always annoying when when you're packed and you want to know, I want to go north. You have to take out your compass or you have to hang it somewhere, and that way you can start to fidget, and you can lose time, and it could be a little bit annoying. So if you tape or glue a small compass on the tip of your foot of your shoe, you just walk, and if you want to know, am I going to the right direction, instead of getting it all out, or especially during winter when you have gloves on, and you have to go into smaller pockets or get it off because your compass is on your wrist or something. You just look down, and you see, I'm going in the right direction. So it might sound stupid, but a little compass on the tip of your toe can help you direct on a more comfortable way without losing too much energy or fiddling with other stuff. So it might sound stupid, and in case of a how do you say this? In case you lose your gear, you still have a compass, so that's also good if you want to be prepared for a bug out. And actually, why? Just to talk about this, why would you put all these things on your boots? Why do not just keep on your wrist or on your in your bug out bag? That's so much easier, one would say. But the thing is, this could be all the things that I'm talked about could be seen as a sort of last ditch carry. So what do I mean by that? Imagine you lose your bug out bag, or you were robbed, or or something happened that you lost your bug out bag, or it was confiscated by official personnel like military or police for some reason, or during in a refugee camp. If you by the rules have to give up your bug out bags to make the situation safer, and that way you always will have this stuff, everything I'm going to talk about, have I talked about and going to talk about, in your shoe, and that's something less likely that robbers and official people will take away. So that's the sort of last ditch element part of it. So what can you put in your shoe? Most importantly, if you're going to put things in your shoes, because that's something that a lot of people talk about, it has to do it has to be resistant to two things. First of all, it cannot interfere with how do you say this, with your foot, because we all know a little pebble, a little bit of sand in your shoe, and it will start to rub the wrong way, and you will have blisters, and that's no fun. So everything I'm going to talk about is something so thin and small that it will less likely interfere or be annoying feeling. So that's something very important to talk about. Uh, yeah. So first of all, put a soul in it. Uh, if you already have a soul in it, try to put another one above it if you're going to hide things in it. So we all know if we're going through customs, through douane, through something that they will search you for, and this could be especially handy during survival situations or when there is a social collapse, corrupt military or police at checkpoints that will get that could take money from you. If you want to hide money, you cannot how do you say it? You cannot skin a stone. So if you have some banknotes, put them beneath the sole in your shoe, and that way you will always have money even if you get robbed. The same thing can go for credit cards. Credit card is something that you need to be careful with, or if you have any other cards like identity cards that you want to hide because you do not want somebody to steal it, make sure that it's very flexible, and yeah, hide it beneath the sole because it's very small. Something this might sound stupid, but these are very small picklock items. So you can take these out and you can put them beneath the sole. It's still flexible enough for your foot, but it's just sometimes the shape can rub against your feet. So if you're afraid of especially a situation where you need to pick lock, this could be handy. But otherwise, I would not I recommend this. Another thing is a blade, a razor blade. Be very careful about this. I would say put it beneath the sole, beneath the sole of the in your inside of your shoe that you put on, and tape it because you do not want this to get loose and start to wiggle and cut your foot. You do not want this. It's not like in the movies. And yeah, many people would say, why don't you open up the heck of the shoe and make a little secret compartment in it? Yeah, that way you will ruin your shoe much faster. So it's not really worth it, especially during a survival situation. You do not want to make cuts in your shoes, even if you can close them. There is still some more. They're more prone to tear and wear. So yeah, that's something that you need to weigh up to the advantages and disadvantages. So a razor blade could help you have a small thing to cut food, to cut plants, to self-defense in an emergency, or if you're bound with tape or with rope or zip ties, that could also be handy. Yeah, so those are things that you can do. Um, some people would say put some matches in it, but there's only one place I would advise to put a match in. By the way, if you're going to put matches on side of your shoe, put them in wax. So if you step into water, these will not be affected by it because they will be covered in wax. Put them somewhere where they can not easily break. So in a place where this is especially good, perhaps better in longer boots, somewhere between the laces. You know, if you can see between these compartments, that could be a way, but it's not really that worth it. It will probably break. It will probably tear and wear and not be useful anymore. So yeah, that's not really any. But I heard some people talk about it. Uh, I think ah, there are still some. These are some things that are perhaps not really that necessarily, but if you have one of those smaller headlights or small lamps, you can, or so one of those clip-on lamps, you can put them on your shoelaces. And why would you put a lamp on your shoes? Why not on your head or held it with your hands? Sometimes you want a low profile, but you still have to move through the dark. So if you have a light above your knees, that's usually above the foliage, and that way military, police, or robbers, or some other bad people with bad intentions can see you from far away in forest area. So if you have one of those lamps, especially with red lamps, those are even less visible. You put them on your boot, and that way you lighten up the path that you're going to walk on, and yeah, you just are visible. It's all visible beneath the knees, and that way you have or less chance to be detected. And why would you do that? First of all, you only need to see if you can navigate through the dark a little bit. You can usually see the path, but sometimes the path could be dangerous, like there are rocks, pits, potholes, and during the night it's very difficult to see those, and you will sprain an ankle, and you do not want a sprained ankle if you're going to evade certain people in the dark, especially forest area. So that's just a small hack you can do to be a little bit more covered uh, if you're going to escape during a bug out. Yeah, just a small. If you have one of those headlights, you can put them around them. You can put them around the shoe. If of course put your feet in it. Turn this a little bit. Tape it or bind it with a little with cord or paracord, and that way you have a little light that will only shine a little bit on the floor, on the ground, right in front of you. Um, all right. Also, something you can do, just put them between the front of your shoelaces. Some zip ties. This could be handy if you suspect that somebody will commit a crime. So this could be an improvised handcuff if you apprehend somebody who stole a thief or a robber or some criminal element that you perhaps, or a spree killer if you have apprehend them in by some lucky way, by the way. And that way, yeah, it could be handy. Or to fix your shoe if there is something coming loose. A zip tie could be handy, especially during a bug out situation. These are all. I do not say that you have to put all these ideas into one shoe. I just say these are ideas that you could use in certain situations onto your boot or shoe. So yeah, I also had for some reason I thought an idea to have a watch, but that's on neat between your shoe, but that's not really that necessarily stupid. But could be some weird fashion trend or something. Uh, just a little bit of joking. I think I'm ready. If somebody else knows some survival hack or some modification you can do with your shoe that could help you to prepare for during disasters or certain scenarios, please let me know in the comments. I'm always eager to learn. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. And I would say thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Cheers.